Hello, I'm Andy Wilson. I'm the Senior Product Architect at Friend MTS and working across our content protection technologies. And I'm joined today by Simon Hanna, the EMEA Regional Vice President at Friend MTS. So we're going to delve into whether we can trust Piracy Statistics. We see it out in market today. Obviously, in Friend MTS blog, we recently published an article regarding Piracy Statistics. And today we're going to discuss this a bit further. Typically, how supply and demand play a role in generating these statistics, but also the impact of any false statements that we see being delivered through these statistics and through through their messages. So obviously, no one really disputes the importance of piracy information to content owners, and in specific, certain statistics. Obviously the content owners, the broadcasting operators, they need information in order to be able to operate and to be able to plan systems and plan services, but also to be able to plan their responses to piracy. One of the issues that we see at Friendly MTS is that the statistics being presented out in market are not always very accurate. And obviously if you have inaccurate statistics, which your content owners, broadcasters, telcos, etc., are using to make business decisions on, they will be making suboptimal decisions. And there are all sorts of potentially negative effects that can result in that. So Simon, can you perhaps talk through some of those negative effects that we see out in markets?
Yeah, indeed, Andy. There are a number of issues that will arise from this kind of inaccurate data, and I highlight a few of them. First of all, obviously, for the content creators, there's an impact on those guys because they see their investors potentially backing out if there's a perceived impact on the investment returns. Licensing deals for the content creators, their licensees may be charged more if those licensees are perceived to be inadequately protecting their content, or the licensees themselves actually may demand to pay less if they see reduced value for the content due to supposedly rampant piracy throughout the ecosystem. For the service providers, well, they may reduce their consumer pricing to their end customers, often unnecessarily, if they believe they have to compete with pirate services based on the information that's being shared. And consequently also, that can then lead to the service provider not being able to license content if their pricing is too low, which will hurt, obviously, both the service provider and, of course, the content owners. And finally, it's another one that we often are involved in, which a lot of people don't realize, but service provider operational teams can suffer from this kind of information because they will seemingly be performing poorly, and the senior management want to understand, why is there all this piracy out there? Why aren't you guys doing something about it? So we have been involved in conversations in the past trying to explain and trying to support service provider operational guys in these discussions with their management teams.
That's interesting. So from what I can gather, a lot of the statistics that are published, they generally talk about the availability of the pirated content are not actually the sources of the pirated content. So why is this a flawed approach?
Yeah, the problem with this kind of supply side data that it's usually just presented as links to content. However, many of these links are only really pointing often to aggregating sites rather than to actual content itself. And accurate, well, even on the supply side, accurate information really needs to target the actual video content sources, not just the sites pointing to the content. Also, it's true to say that while you might reasonably expect that pirated content that's available in many locations is probably going to be the most popular, it's not always the case, and it's actually quite realistic that some content may be serving a very, very large audience from a very limited number of sources.
Interesting. Okay. So I guess what we really need then, as an industry, and what our, the broadcasters and the content owners really need is accurate data around, end user consumption.
That's right. That's right. Consumption's key. That said, though, this is a notoriously difficult activity. Even when you're measuring consumption for legitimate content, it's always been difficult. Much of the consumption data currently published is actually based on, frankly, extremely shaky foundations, using information such as content titles that are found in web links or user analytics from legitimate websites. And with this very limited data, then there's extrapolation that's undertaken, which only really then compounds the inaccuracy. These stats as well truth is they often only focus on web-based piracy, and as we know, working in this space, web-based piracy is only a small part of the problem. There's so many pirate video apps out there now, Kodi add-ins, and a range of devices, both pirate streaming set-top boxes and other what we call ISDs, illicit streaming devices that are now available.
So how can we actually get a kind of a more accurate view of consumption?
Well, the key to start with is understanding the actual streaming sources of the video content. And when you have this knowledge, then you can collaborate potentially with an ISP to actually do some real observation of content volumes from these pirate streaming sources into the ISP network. Of course, this kind of approach at the network level will completely cover all categories of client device. And also, when you have this kind of information, for live events, you can actually analyze the data to accurately align those events with the volume of consumption at those particular times to get some more in-depth information and better understanding of the impact around those particular premium live events.
Okay. And this is a service that Friend MTS can provide?
Actually, yes, we do. We do provide a capability around this, which we call Piracy IQ. It's a service we've had available for, I think, a couple of years now. And of course, anyone who's interested in learning more, please do get in touch with us. Happy to discuss.
Great. Thank you, Simon. So obviously, yeah, please go and look at our blog at friendmts.com. There you'll find a series of articles around piracy statistics. And obviously from some previous blog entries we did around content protection technologies and obviously moving beyond DRM, vitally important that the message gets out to folks in the market. Simon, thanks very much for your time.
Well, thank you, Andy.